My name is Ihara, Jr. I have been to this board not as long as Barbara, but for 26 years. Barbara got in the house in 1978. I've lived in Kaimuki, I've lived in Pololo. I now live at the back of Pololo. I recently moved there. And have served 8 years in the House and 16 in the Senate. My major interest areas have to do with the political process, government accountability, public integrity. I favor competition of ideas and marketplace of ideas. Kurt may not want to hear this, but I think it would be better served if we had more competition of ideas. If that requires Republicans, then fine. Sometimes when there is too much of a light thinking, there tends to be, I don't mean this as a criticism, but it's a natural thing of a little bit of what people negatively would call arrogance. But I think all of our legislators mean well. I'm not sure if it's a psychological condition, but it's something I've seen over and over. And I think one of my areas of interest is in collaborative decision-making, deliberation. When I first got in, I found that I was in a constitutional convention with Barbara, and we passed a constitutional requirement to require open voting in the legislature. In the committees, in conference committees, they already voted in public in the House and Senate. When I got in 1986, I found a couple of years later, I was surprised that the committees didn't vote. They passed around a ballot, which was a committee report. And if you had a majority that supported the proposal that the chair was proposing, you would sign it. If you voted no, it would be I, D, and C. I do not concur. It was not easy, and I think it was time, and I think we had the support of the speaker at that time, Speaker Say, to have voting. First we started in the House in 1993, a number of years after 1978. Then a bunch of us, and myself included, went to the Senate in 1995 session was our first session, and we started voting in Senate committees for the first time. And then, as you may know, or you may not know, actually, the most powerful body in the legislature is the conference committees. And that's where the decision-making goes underground. There tends to be deal-making, because you have to, sometimes there's horse trading because there's a process called gut and replace, where you have two totally different subjects within a bill that unrelated, there's no relationship at all, but a broad title. And then at a conference committee, you have, senators and House members, and you can't put them, together many times because of the subjects. Anyway, in the year 2000 was the year that the conference committees started voting for the first time. There is still, to me, a concern about germaneness. There are the gut replace process I told you about. In other states, they have a rule called germaneness, so that if you're going to amend the bill, it needs to be germane to the original contents of the bill. And the typical practice is, in Hawaii, is when you have a bill and you want to use it as a vehicle for another idea, a different idea, the chair would remove the contents without the committee vote and post a hearing with the new contents in it that are unrelated to the original underlying contents. And the public, when they are asked to testify, they are not allowed to testify on the actual bill, underlying bill, which is the legal bill. So I have, one of my areas, as you know, as you can tell, is legislative process. Because I think by having more transparency, by having more collaboration, by having more debate, discussion, I think we'll have a better outcome. An example is, recently you've probably heard about the Public Lands Development Corporation. PLDC? Well, I was the only senator that voted no. And I can tell you the senators didn't know what was in the bill. There was no debate on whether to have exemptions and how wide it is. The PLDC, the legislature, cut a wide swath through bills, statutes that the corporation does not have to follow. That's not necessarily inherently bad, because could be some good purposes in it. But my concern is that it was done in a way, there was no debate. And even on the floor, there's very little debate. And how I found out about it is, I got an email from an environmentalist night before the floor vote now. And I decided to look into it, just amongst the hundreds of things I need to do. And I felt it was important enough to read the bill, and that's where I was alarmed. And so, for other senators, I know they didn't know about the bill. They regret, mainly because not knowing. So my point is that I think we need to have, on contentious issues, we can agree to disagree, but let's discuss it, let's debate it, let's do it out in the open. My other areas of concern, besides public access, I've supported and helped start the public access room, the legislative broadcast project. Environmental issues are a major area that I'm concerned. I mostly monitor and have to maybe raise the alarms sometimes if a bill goes so far. But the PLDC that I mentioned, there was no alarm because we were already in the burning house, and I couldn't tell anyone, and it was too late because I only had hours. Civil rights, civil liberties, consumer protection, senior citizens, those are the issues that I have focused on, and among others. I think I've really gone over my 5 minutes. Thank you.
State Senate District 10, Eric Marshall.
Okay, well, I guess some time for the newbie here to share with you guys. Obviously, I'm not a politician. Obviously, I'm not really running a campaign that would be something that looks like I'm going to win just because of the nature of things. I am probably the youngest person in the room except for that guy in the back doing the sound. So what I want to do is talk to you guys openly about the future. I mean, obviously, you have to commend Les. He does stand for several things that we as Republicans would like to see, which is open transparency in government. I would ask Les if he can work on the sunshine laws over in the legislature. That would be great. I know he's probably tried, but I think we need a lot more of the people to really get on that bandwagon if that's ever going to happen. But what I feel that makes me different from Les, obviously, not a politician. I work till 6, till 7. I can't even campaign or do any of that kind of stuff. So these opportunities are my only chance to get out the word about what is the difference. And obviously, an interesting thing here that was 1978 when you were in the Constitutional Convention. I was attending this preschool. I was in this workers class right over there in 1978. So, I mean, it's definitely what we need to see some change in our political system. So that's my time to Kaimuki. My family is from Kaimuki, and so I do have roots here. Currently, I'm in the area nearby Ihara High School. And there's a lot about my personal information that I would love to share usually, but if you can go to my website, which I'll do in the beginning, www.ericforsenate.com. There's a lot of stuff on my wife, my family. You can take a look at all that stuff on there. And of course, what I stand for, a lot more in depth. But with the time I have, and a short amount of time, I would like to really talk about the future. And the leaders here in this room, we need to be looking at that. I thank Les for sharing a lot of the history of things that took place in the 70s. His work on the Alawai in the 80s on his website, all that kind of stuff. And it's good stuff, and I love that stuff. That kind of stuff, and history and so forth. But obviously, we need to look toward the future, and I think that's what my candidacy tries to represent. I'm trying younger voice to the campaign, try to bring that in for others. I joke about the only other guy sitting here that's young. That's sad. It's just sad. I mean, I'm kind of old already. I mean, these guys all ran younger than me. They got in. Most of the picking on guys, but yes, most of the politicians that are currently running the state were in even younger than I was. So, running for office. What does that tell us for our future? That's something that I really need to, if anything gets out to the public about my candidacies, we need younger people. I'm running as Republican, everybody kind of freaks out about that kind of stuff. But it's coming to an age where we're going to see that a lot of people are going to open their eyes, that we talk about openness and non-divisiveness. Well, here in Hawaii, we have this really weird divide because there is that kind of a majority that pushes out what the minority in Hawaii would be saying. And we need to have a lot more voices out there as well as just younger candidates as well. So I'm encouraging, other candidates, whoever might be listening. I know it's hard, I know we might not have a chance to win, but we need to have people involved. So that's mainly the reason I stepped forward. I did try to run in 2010 as well, and just again, kind of like there's nobody running, so who's going to step up? So, I think that needs to be not the case. We need to hopefully have people that are getting involved, that want to see a difference in the community. And, talking about 1978 and everything, I gotta be honest, this community has not changed since 1978. I mean, I'm glad the preschool got to add that building over there. That's like the biggest change that's happened. I mean, if we talk about other things, the school closed down, my brother went to right next door. If anything does change, it's just things going backwards. And of course, I don't stand for a rail because it's just the future again. It's technology from the 1800s and all that kind of stuff. Cars and everything else will be a lot more adapted to traveling in the future. The bus systems will all have a lot more ways to do our commuting efficiently. So, we're looking at that kind of technology. I lived in Japan. I know the problems with rail. I mean, they all think that things are good in Japan. I lived in Japan 3 years. I rode the rail to work every day, and it cost like $100 a month. That was the monthly pass. And that monthly pass only got you from one station to the others. It didn't let you go on any station. You had to only buy it per station. And it was like, that was the cheapest, that's supposed to be the cheapest, but when you actually calculated it, it was the same as just catching it regularly, their pass. And the cost of just maintaining it, people had to pay for it in the cost of it. And those rail lines were bought back in the 1700s or something in Japan. All those lines were already there almost, way back then. Here we are trying to dig up a line. And I even had a person, this is something that's probably a big public thing because we get on the internet, but I was like molested on a train. Japan trains are so bad, they get so cramped. If they really want to pack this train, there was some guy that kind of like broke me in this train, that's what, and it happens to women. It happens to women so much. They have to make a pink little car for women to go into because they're groped all the time. And I had that personal experience myself. It's pretty shocking. Our day and age today, but I can't take a picture of that guy, whatever. But I'm going off. But basically, these things happen on trains. Safety concerns, if it happens, are tragic. I can see kids running all along the rail. In Japan, they don't cross the rail. But here in Hawaii, they're going to cross that rail because they're too lazy to go under and go back and start all over. They're going to get run over. They're going to fall off the rail. And of course, Japan is really bad. But there is suicide on the rail a lot. And it's a constant, there's 3 a day. And they have to have a contingency for that. So, and they don't have systems for it. When you hear it when you're living there, they'll do it. They'll clean it in 10 minutes. It's amazing. But that's what they have to do just to get the system to keep going. And they'll make an announcement and everything like that. If we had that over here, you think about the road being stopped when somebody does that. The rail would be the same thing. And it'll happen probably a lot more on the rail. That's my rail rant real quick. But I do want to represent a different voice, and I don't really have a chance of winning per se, but we need people like myself that will chance it, will take a chance, step it up. Anybody else that wants to help me continue to get the youth more involved, I'm willing to do that. And even though I forgot to mention what I work, but I do work as a compliance officer actually at a credit union, and I know firsthand how the laws affect us there, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse. So if I do get elected, I'll look at ways to look back at our older laws and look at how we can just eliminate some of this stuff that's in there so that we can take care of our future by getting rid of all tons of regulations that we have to deal with on a daily basis. So with all that, I'm very ready for this time.